and welcome to Stand and Speak in the Age of AI. That's what we're all here for, right? I know there's so many masterclasses going on at the same time, so I just want to make sure that you all are here to talk about speaking and storytelling. I was driving in this morning, and I live in Roswell, Georgia, so it took me like 15 minutes to get here. And I was talking to my 28-year-old niece who works for St. Jude's, based in Memphis, Tennessee. And she was telling me she was getting a whole lot of resumes and cover letters, in her email box. And she was lamenting how the cover letters and emails, and resumes sounded so robotic. They sounded so machine generated. And I was thinking to myself, 20 years ago, when I was doing the resumes and cover letters, the internet was not as robust as it is now. And AI definitely wasn't as prevalent as it is now. But I remember that meant that I would have to think about all the personal experiences that I had that lined up with those job bullet points, right? Every job we have out here has bullet points, and I would have to think about it. The more I thought, the more I could write. The more I could write, the more I could think. And it led me to this point about AI is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. Everything about AI is wonderful. When I think about AI, I think about so much more. So much more. Better, faster, more efficient, more effective, so much more. But what AI cannot do, what it cannot replicate, is your story. It can try. Sure, maybe it's gotten to the point that it can maybe dictate your voice, but it cannot tell your story in the way that you can tell your story. And so as we go into this world of AI, there's so much more world that it's all about how you can speak to the robots that you'll be leading, or the robots will unfortunately start leading us. And we don't want that. Our human voice is so important, and the stories that we have. And what is a story? What's a story? Tell me what a story is. Yes, please.
Well, it's every program you see on television, you start with, you have your hero, you've got a problem, you've got a guide comes in, the guide offers a solution or a plan for the problem. The hero accepts the plan, they work together to solve the problem, they identify the bad, the good,
Right.
and move in that direction.
Exactly.
So that's the story.
Perfect. Thank you. It has three major elements, right? It has a beginning, a protagonist, a hero, and then it has the challenge. What was that challenge? And then it has an outcome. The story always has that. But let me tell you, a really good definition for a story is truth well told. Truth well told. That is a story. Truth well told. And the well told part is the more important one. That's the part we're going to get into today. The well told. How you frame your story. And I'm going to give you a framework today, and it's called the Hook, Heart, Home framework. It's what I coach on every single day. And this framework is going to help you tell your story in a well told way. Right? So out of this workshop, it's 2 hours together, and we've got it's going to be great because we are really going to dig into what is your story, how do you define, refine, and share your story. Well, I'm going to give you a really good framework to use to tell this story through, and then we are going to practice this story. So at the end of this workshop, I would love for you to be able to give us a 60-second soundbite of one of your stories that we are going to work through on this workshop with. This workshop is going to be really interactive. I want us to be able to talk and engage with your tables, and engage with each other. Because the whole point of telling your story and learning how to define it is being able to share it. It's really important that you build and talk about your story that talks and builds your brand presence. Right? And every single one of us has a brand presence. Brand presence is really important. Brand presence, and if you think about it another way, it's your reputation. It's your reputation. And if you are not constantly and consistently talking and building upon your brand presence through your story, if you're consistently and talking and building your brand presence, that's your reputation. So we're going to talk about that, and at the end of it, like I said, we're going to give you an opportunity to come up here and give a 60-second soundbite. I want you to raise your hand in the last 30 days if you used AI to write something professional for you. Every single hand is raised except one. You haven't asked AI to write something professional for you? Do you use AI?
Not often.
Not often.
Not often. During their note taking, maybe. For like during calls.
Right.
But not often in my emails. or
In
things
your
like that.
emails are wonderful. You guys need to get emails from this young lady, okay? Let's see what they're about. Hi. Because too often, we've all seen it. We've all read them. We've all, on your social, it all seems so machine-ridden, so machine-driven. I often feel like, where is our authentic voice? And sometimes I feel like we're losing that, right? If we don't use it, we lose it. So this is really all about you finding that and using that as a foundation going forward. So we're going to go through this workshop, right? We're going to be really interactive. We're going to talk through your story. I'm going to ask you what stories you want to talk about. What are these experiences that you've had in your life that have challenged you, made you happy, made you sad, all the things that have taught you lessons, and then we can learn from those lessons and we'll put it in a framework. Okay, so that's what we're going to get out of this workshop today. All right, so why are stories so important? Why are stories so important? We think about facts, right? We gotta have facts, we gotta have data. You gotta have, I always say this when I coach people, you have to have data points and you have stories surround the anchors, the data point. There's studies done. 22% of people remember stories so much more than facts. So if you are writing a cover letter, sending out a message, sending out an important email, having a meeting, okay, let me take a quick poll. How many in here are starting out in their career? New in their career, just starting out. How many people are mid-level in their careers? Mid-level? Executives? Entrepreneurs? Great, okay. And the people that are not entrepreneurs, I'm assuming you guys work in companies and corporations. Yes? Companies and corporations? People that work for companies and corporations? Gosh, there's not a lot of hands. So where are the rest of you guys? Companies and corporations, raise your hands. And entrepreneurs? Okay, so we got half and half. Okay, students? No more students. Okay, all right, great. All right, so when you think about sending out an email or sending out a cover letter, resume, or as you think about having a meeting, if you were to anchor that around a story, your message can get 22 more times read, remembered, action-oriented. The flow of information is always going to go like this, always. If you want information to have an action to it, you have a message, it then has to trigger an emotion, which then converts to action, goes back to your message. Information, if you want converted to action, always flows like this. Information, message, triggers an emotion, converts to action, goes back to the message. If you want your information to convert to action, if you use story to do that through, it is 22% more likely to get read and more importantly, to get remembered. You want your message to be remembered. All right? Okay, so I know this to be true. I know how stories work because I want to tell you a little story about myself. My name is Neha Negandhi. I am the CEO of Storytellers Table. I have a speaking and storytelling coaching consulting company. I help people every single day understand and use their voice through stories, speaking one-on-one, in meetings, in presentations, in stages, and then on much bigger stages. I was born in Chicago, and I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina at 8 years old. My family and I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. Back then, it was a big small town. So we didn't move into the center of that big small town. We moved to the way outskirts of the town, where now cows were literally our neighbors. 8 years old, I started 3rd grade. I get on the big shiny school bus because in Chicago we got to walk to school. I get on the school bus. I'm so super excited to get on the school bus. I've read all the pictures. I've seen all the pictures, seen it in shows, and I'm giddy to get on the school bus. So I get on the school bus. growing up, moving to Charlotte, there weren't a lot of people that looked like us. There weren't a lot of people that celebrated our religion or understood our holidays. Through no fault of their own, it's just the way it was. So we get on the school bus, and there was this little boy that didn't see anybody that ever looked like me before. And he comes right up to me and he says, I've never seen anyone that looked like you. Do you live in a teepee? Right? Yeah, Native American home. And I didn't know what a teepee was at 8 years old. So I say to him, which is what I've always used to connect to people, is understanding their story. And so I say to him, I don't know what that is, but maybe we can draw a picture of it together and figure it out. Stories help you connect to people. You using your story, connecting to theirs, being curious about theirs, is the fundamental and elemental way to get to know people the quickest and fastest. Again, AI can't replicate that, but you can. You can use that. So at 13 years old, I decided that I really wanted to be, I had a really good voice and I wanted to become a radio personality. And at 13 years old, I had an opportunity, but through a very, very immature, emotionally immature decision that I made, I understood how words could really hurt people. So I became silent. So I understand also the meaning of being silent. I graduated from college and I moved here and I worked at Turner Broadcasting. Just down the street here in Midtown at TBS and TNT for Cartoon Network. The best place to tell stories was here at Turner. Man, we told amazing stories. I understood the love and how to connect with people. Got married, moved to Seattle, Washington, and started working for T-Mobile corporate in marketing and learned how to tell stories in the telecom way. But the creme of the creme, I will share with you, was when I got recruited by Starbucks corporate. And I started working in their international marketing department. And Charles Schultz was still CEO at the time. And there was a meeting scheduled one day. And it was a consumer behavior meeting on Tazo tea. Tazo tea was just rolling out to the international markets. And I looked at the invitee list, and they looked all the same, so I didn't think much of it. I go into the meeting, lo and behold, Charles Schultz was in the meeting. Unannounced, there he is. I was not ready, nor prepared, to have our CEO be in our meeting. So the meeting starts, something happens, he looks at me, and he asks me a question. Yes, he asked me a question. It was something about, I could tell you exactly what it was, but it was something about how does tea affect different countries? I didn't have any stats prepared. I didn't have any data points around this. I wasn't ready for Charles Schultz to be in our CEO, to be in our meeting. But here's what I do, and here's what I always have done. I've always gone to stories. So I looked at him and I said, Mr. Schultz, if you want teas to do well in an international market, you've got to understand tea is so much more than a beverage quencher. I remember sitting there having chai with my mom around a formica table in our kitchen, and I saw her so much better than a mom. I saw her as a whole person. She told me about her story, about growing up in a village and having, growing up with all the challenges, and that's when I was able to see her. So you see, for these international markets like India, Japan, China, tea is so much more than a beverage. And that's when I knew that he saw me, right? That's when I knew the message that I was giving to him resonated. That's what stories do for people. They give you an anchoring point for people to remember your message. And once it is remembered, then it can be taken action on. Okay? So after that, I had an opportunity to start a radio show here at WMLB, which is in Midtown Atlanta. I had my radio show for a couple of years, and then I gave a TEDx talk in 2020. My TEDx talk was about the world that we may be bent, but we are not broken, and it was about one community, one world. And then I've started helping others to speak on these stages. So this is really about understanding who you are and understanding what your voice is, and we're going to work on that together, all right? I want you to think about the last time you listened to somebody who held your attention. Last time you listened to somebody that held your attention, whether that was through a podcast you were listening to, whether that was a conversation you had at a coffee shop, whether that was through social media feed that you were scrolling, what captured your attention? What made you stop and click on that read more? You know the social media thing, Coach, you've all had, right? We're all scrolling, and you read something, it captures you, it engages you, and you click on read more. I want you to think about that and write it down. What was it? What was it? Write it down. What was it? What was that moment or moments that captured your attention? Something you read, something you conversated about, something that captured your attention and how it engaged you. So I want you to also think about, while you're writing this down, what engaged you and what stopped you from, what made you think about it? Was it the feeling that it gave you? Was it the words that they used? Was it the tonality that they used it in? If it came from a show, or you were watching a Netflix series and something grabbed your attention from it, how did they say something that captured? I want you to think about it and write it down. We're going to share it. And I would like for you guys to share it. So who has something they can share, something that captured? Yes, please.
Curiosity and interest.
And what was it that captured your attention? Like, was it a particular, like, was it like an exchange, a talking exchange, or was it a song, or was it a social media post?
I mean, I was just thinking in general with even like social media posts, or like even the person I was texting before I came here, like curiosity and interest that makes me want to like
Engage more.
engage.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, anybody have one? Yes, please.
I think this one's, it's a little bit tangential, but I'm reading a book right now that's telling me about system architecture. And as I read that book, I'm taking what I'm reading and retelling stories in my head of things that have happened at work over the past 3 years, and almost like inserting how I would have done it differently if I had this information. So to the effect of, the book isn't telling a story, but for me to memorize it, I'm adding it to a story.
Right, if you're putting it in the story that's going on in your head.
Right.
Right? That's so, yes. Anybody else had that? Go on, yes.
Yeah, I was at a presentation, that company that's called Boosters. They help companies raise money for schools and all that.
Yeah, I know Chris, very
And
well.
the leader, Chris, gave a presentation
Yeah.
on a book he wrote about virtues instead of values.
Such good,
And what he did is, he's an excellent speaker, he captures people, but he talked about the problem they had and where he almost went bankrupt and all that, and it caught everybody's emotion before he went out, and then talked about the purpose of these of virtues instead of values.
Yeah.
So he brought himself into the picture with a problem,
Yes.
and then he had a purpose. And so that really captured me, because when I looked at that, I can associate with the problem I had, and then now with the purpose, I can move in that direction.
That is so true, right? That's exactly, anybody else have the same thing? I think you guys are saying the same thing. Anybody else have the same thing, right? The way you read something, the way that you get captured by something is that the way you engage with others. The reason that things capture you is the way that you are captivating to others. So it's the same premise, right? The friends that you have in your life are the friends that you want to be to yourself. It's that same concept. So I want you to start paying attention to the things that are engaging you, the things that are captivating you. Because if you were to think about it a little, and unlayer it a little bit, those same things that engage and captivate you are the things that engage and captivate others about you. Now, I want you to kind of think about this, right? Let it marinate, because if you let it marinate and let it think about it, it's really true. So I want you to start thinking about that. As we start thinking about the story that you're going to be telling and defining and refining and sharing through this framework that we're going to talk about today. So this framework is something that I've invented and I coach on, like I said, every single day. And it is called the Hook, Heart, Home framework, right? The Hook, Heart, Home framework. All right, so let's talk about the hook. The hook is the first 10, 15 seconds of the story that you share. Now, when you talk about the hook, I want you to think of yourself as a jet fighter pilot. Okay, if you're a jet fighter pilot, have you seen those little planes that sit on those big naval ships out in the middle of the ocean? Right? Those ships, those planes have 7 to 10 seconds to take off, otherwise they'll land in the ocean. That's where you need to start. You have 10 to 15 seconds to take off with your message, otherwise people have lost. like listening to you, all right? So when you come up with a hook, when you come up with the beginning of your story, it has to be captivating. It has to be curious. It has to be evocative. So an example could be a statement, a provocative statement. For example, I'm going to give you, I was listening to Jamie Oliver, Chef Jamie Oliver, he was giving a TEDx talk. The first line he said is, in the 18 minutes you and I will be having this conversation, 100 children will suffer from food deprivation. That is a very strong provocative statement. A hook can also be a question. Why do so many people order pineapples as a topping on a pizza? Right? I mean, right? It's a question. You have to think, right? Questions make you think. You want to get your the audience members to start thinking. Here's another example. So of a really good hook. It is when you think about a hook, you have to think about how you can get people to start thinking, how it can be more memorable to you. All right, so I want to do an activity with you guys. It's called the scroll test, all right? But to make things that I believed in. So I started Next, and he bought Pixar, fell in love with creating again, and years later, Apple brought him back. You see the heart connects you to the lesson that you learned, and it connects you to the audience that you're giving it to, all right? So home. Home is the ending, the landing. What is the takeaway? You should always have a takeaway. Always close the loop on your story. Because if you leave the front part of your story open, like why you did what you are doing, you are leaving it to the audience to make up an ending for you. And I promise you, sometimes the ending is not what you want it to be, right? Yeah? So you always want to close the loop. You always want to tell people exactly what happened. If you were on a weight loss journey and you started, I'm making this up, if you started at 150 and ended up at 120, what got you there and why? And the closing takeaway is, maybe, I do this, you can do it too. There are no excuses in life. Maybe that's your takeaway. But there should always be a takeaway. If you had a failure, and we've all gone through them, all gone through our challenges, what is the thing that you've learned that I can learn from that too? That should be part of your story, and that should be part of the takeaway. All right, so I'm going to give you mine. Growing up, everyone called me a chatterbox. The kid who couldn't stop talking, asking questions, and connecting. But at 13, an emotionally immature decision that made me realize words were actually a weapon that can cut much deeper than anything I ever held in my hand. So I stopped using mine. So for years, I watched as promotions literally passed me by. I watched as others take credit for my ideas. I failed at understanding without understanding why. The silence I thought that was protecting me was causing me to suffer. So today, I coach hundreds of people to reclaim that story because I spent too many years in silence. I know exactly what it cost. I've been waiting for permission to speak up, so now I'm using it. All right, so that's mine. Always make sure that you have an emotional part to the story that resonates with your audience. So I want you to start thinking about a really good story. Have you seen this? Has anybody seen this? It's really good. So, what did you guys think about that when you saw that video? I mean, it captured it captured a really good hook. It captured the heart. Yeah, and it had a great takeaway message.
Yeah,
Yes.
when you say you're blind, most of us don't understand what that means.
Right.
When you say that it's a beautiful day and I can't see it, we all see beautiful days and we know what it's like not to see it. So it puts us in his seat, I think.
Exactly, right? Which what? Converts to action. That they got more money, right? So it always goes back to thinking about what your experiences are that everybody can learn a lesson from, right? So now it's your turn. I really want you to start thinking about your experiences that we've all had. Every single one of us has stories or multiple of stories. So take out a notebook, take out your phone, whatever you have to write with. And I want you to think about one of these prompts here. A time you failed, a moment of realization, a decision that scared you, something you built, someone who changed you. Or if there's other prompts that you have that you want to write about, that's fine too. But I would like for you to write your experiences in a couple of lines using these prompts. This is going to be the base of the story that you are going to talk about and that we all talk about and share. So think about any of these prompts, and I'm going to give you, let's say 3 minutes. All right, 3 minutes. All right, 3 minutes. You're going to write some of your experiences around these prompts. And don't worry about the hook and the heart and the home, all that framework right now. Just start writing. Just start writing what comes to you. It can be phrases, it can be full sentences, but something around one of these prompts, because these prompts are the ones that are, the ones that in your life that are gonna be the ones that are enlightening to you, that changed you, that caused a pivot point in you, that maybe you were at a fork in the road and that something happened. One of your experiences in your life made you take a different direction, right? Or you learned from even traveling on that same direction, what would happen. So any of these things, what we're gonna do after you write it down is I'm gonna have you share your thought phrase or thoughts or sentences with somebody else. We're gonna pair up and you're gonna share it. So let's start writing, think about this, and then we are going to take 2 more minutes, and I promise I'll stop talking in those 2 minutes, and I want you to think and write, okay? And then we're gonna share. The person they were listening to share there's a little bit of what you heard. Who wants to share?
So my name is Amit Mayer. So Akshaya was telling me how she was born and raised in Singapore, and at a certain point early in her career, despite not having planned it, she was intrigued by the option of learning and living somewhere else, and she decided to apply to 3 different schools and was accepted, and she's a student in Georgia Tech. Never lived outside of Singapore before, and she said, I'm not sure if this is brave or stupid. And I told her, it's definitely brave. I don't think it's going to be stupid, but it's definitely brave. That's not a question.
Yes, great choice. Yeah, congrats. You want to tell us a little? Yes. Wonderful. Well done. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Fine. Pick the one that you feel most comfortable with sharing, and let's focus on a hook for it. So when I mean a hook, you're going to either think about your experience that you had, whether that's transformational, whether that's pivot-inducing, whether that's a failure, whether that was a success, whether that, we talked about, some of the stories was about giving a universal, a thing to everybody, right? One thing that they can all learn from. Whatever your experience is, I want you to start thinking about it, and I want us to come up with a hook. You could think about it. Can you come up with a good question you can think about the starting of your story from? Can you think of a provocative way, a statement, a bold statement about your experience? Or can you think about it even painting a scene, right? Paint a scene about your experience. Where are you? What were you thinking, feeling, experiencing, so we can also experience that as well? That's a great hook to bring in people. Paint us a picture. Think about the climber that went to the top of the mountain. I've heard this, so I'm going to share this with you. For example, I'm standing there in 10 feet of snow. There's gusts of wind coming around me. I could feel my lungs almost collapsing with how much pressure it was taking for one breath of air. I had 10 steps to go to the top. That's a good hug, right? That's a good hug. So if you've got an experience that you wrote down, or one that you want to talk and share that it really talks about your story, let's come up with a hook. Because that hook you can use in conversations, you can use in meetings, you can use at presentations, you can use going forward so many different places. It can be a foundation of how you start talking about your narrative, your brand, building your brand presence. There's a lot of entrepreneurs in this room, and there's also a lot of people that are working for nonprofits and for companies and corporations. Each one of you, each and every single one of you has meetings to go to, emails to write, in the ways that you present yourself. Your personal narrative, your story about who you are and the experience that goes with you has to start with a solid hook. You have to come up with that, because once you come up with that, the way you come up with the heart and the home really leads one to the other. So I want us to think about, come up with a question of story or experience, a bold statement, or a scene. Paint us a picture of the scene of your experience. I want you to always think about Steve Jobs, right? When Steve Jobs in 2007 came out with the iPhone, he came out on that stage and he said to that audience, from this day on, Apple is going to transform the way we communicate. And then he went on to paint us a picture about all the archaic ways that we communicate. The way that we have to sit at home and get a phone call. The way we have to listen to the radio when we're at home or at the radio. In the car. The way that we have to, get directions from, Triptych. Who remembers Triptych? Having to go to the AAA office, right? I did that. You had to go to the AAA office. If you were trying to go from here to let's say Colorado, I had to go to the AAA office, and they would literally highlight the path you would take to get from point A to point B, right? Steve Jobs stood up there on the stage and talked about all this. And then he said, this device right here is going to put all of it in one place for you. He painted us a picture, and then he gave you the solution. Imagine if he had stood on that stage and said, well, guess what, everybody? The way we communicate is so crazy. All we're going to do, I'll put everything, your whole life on this device. We really think about it. Our whole life is on our devices now. But if he had started there, we would have all run out of the room screaming, going, no way, no way. But instead, he pulled us in. He made us understand the problem. He made us see that the solution was already there for us. All we had to do is believe in it. You see, your story is the bridge that makes people believe. And if you get people to believe, you get them to take action. Whatever that action is that you want. Okay? Remember what I started with. You are always building brand presence. Always. Always. Now, is that what you want to be known for? Or is that what other people are telling them some stories about you about? So let's come up with a hook. I can help you. So I'm going to go around your tables and I'm going to help you come up with a really good hook, and then I would like for us to share a few. After this, in a few, we are going to go into nonverbal communication cues. So how do you share your story? What are those cues you're sending out consciously and subconsciously on how to share your story? Sitting, standing, virtually, in person. So we're going to go through that next, okay? So I'm going to go through you around your tables and talk to you about your hooks and what you're thinking about, and we'll work on it together. And we'll give ourselves 5 minutes to think about this, all right? 5 minutes. out of your mouth. I always coach this. You've got to think it first before you speak it. All right? So keep working on it. Keep these experiences. Keep a journal. I strongly recommend you to have a journal. Think about these experiences. Maybe they're not, in 2-hour workshop, you may not all remember all the different things that you've done in your life and the lessons that you've learned, but keep a journal. It will really help you, and think about it in this framework, the hook, heart, home framework. Okay? All right. I would love to get into, now, you got your story. How are we going to deliver your story? How are you going to be talking about it? What are the nonverbal cues that you can learn, or also you may be sending out subconsciously that people are picking up on? And so let's start reframing some of that stuff, okay? Nonverbal communication. There was a study done, and it was a speaker that got up from their seat and walked up to the speaking platform. And the scientists did a poll of the audience of what the audience thought of that speaker. Then that speaker opened up his mouth and spoke for 45 minutes and sat back down. The same scientist did a poll of that same audience of that speaker. 85% of that polled audience thought the same exact opinion of that speaker after he got up from his seat to the same time until after he finished speaking. That means the nonverbal communication cues that you are sending out are not changing even after you finish speaking. So it matters. It matters how you stand. It matters how you sit. It matters how you present. It matters where your hands are. It matters if you tilt your head to the right or tilt your head to the left. It matters if you lean forward. It matters if you sway. All of it matters. All right? So when we are presenting, when you are speaking, when you are building your brand presence, it matters how you speak as much as what you say. Does that make sense? All right, quick hack. When you do tilt your head to the right or tilt your head to the left, doesn't matter. It says the same thing. I'm inviting you to trust me. I'm inviting you to trust what I have to say. You can look at it in the movies, right? When people are talking in the movies, you start picking up on these nonverbal cues. You'll start watching a series or start watching a film, and you'll see somebody when they talk and they'll tilt their head like this. And when you expose a part of your neck, it signals the brain, I can trust this person. It's true, right? So think about it. It's really true. All right. So that's a quick hack for you. Another quick hack is if you're in a meeting or doing a presentation and you start nodding your head, people will nod their head with you. It just happens. It's like hiccups, okay? It happens. It's like, do you agree with me? Yes. Are you with that? Yes, right? Politicians do it a lot, right? It's true. It's true. Try it. Try it. It really does. It works. All right? These are quick things that you can do to start building some positive stuff, right? Okay, I want to, let me see, is my YouTube, okay. I want to show you this, and we're going to talk about this. But I want to preface it by saying this is not what we're going to do. Okay. What I wanted you to see here, I don't know if did you see his actions? He could not remember what he wanted to say. There was a teleprompter in front of him. The teleprompter was failing. He could not come up with any thoughts to what to say when the moderator was asking him a question. He turns and he leaves. That is the worst thing we can ever do when we are speaking to any kind of audience, right? It doesn't. It's Michael Bay. He could have said anything to that audience that was in front of him, and he would have been great. But he chose to walk off the stage, right? So that is what we don't want to do. It'll get to the right slide here in a minute. All right, so let's go through some more of these nonverbal cues, because I want you to understand the difference of how to stand if you are in person. If you're in person and you're giving a meeting, you want to put your feet shoulder width apart. We don't ever want to sway. If you sway, shifting your weight from leg to leg, it means that you're nervous or you have to go to the bathroom, all right? So what you want to be rooted in how you stand. If people are putting their hands in a pocket, and unfortunately I don't have any to give you an example of that, but I am going to ask somebody to demonstrate. Please, can you stand up? Thank you. And stand up here and put your hands in your pocket for me. 2 hands in your pocket. If you stand and deliver a message, and I'm just volunteering him, please don't blame the messenger, okay? If you stand and deliver a message like this gives the message that you're closed off. You don't want to hear what anybody else really has to say. You're not open to receiving a message, all right? That's not what our friend Amit wants to say. He's just our messenger. Thank you so much. Yes. All right. So you always want to keep open palms. Open palms and keep your hands up at your waist if you can, almost at all times. If you keep in open palms, it means you're giving people an invitation. It is an invitation for people to come and listen. Okay? So open palms signals an invitation. If you close palms, and if you do this action, this means calm down, silence, quiet down. You see coaches and teachers do this, right? Now, this may be part of your message. I want you to calm down. I want you to simmer down. I want you to quiet down where the thoughts are going down in your brain. And that's fine. But normally you want to keep an open palm when we're talking because we want to invite people into our conversation. If you have to point to, if you're in a presentation and you're giving something that you have to point towards, okay? If it's very, very specific what you're pointing, you can use a finger to that but not for long. But on a generality, we don't ever want to point. It's just not good. What it really does, it ends up offending people. So if you do have to, if you want to say there's a window, use an open hand. There's a window here. Or there's a thing here on the side that I would like for you to notice. Or there's open palms, open hands, always signals openness, all right? If you use your finger, it always makes people think the opposite. Don't do that, all right? Also, let's talk, we're not at the right slide, I'm sorry. Okay, we're gonna get to the right side. Okay, so make eye contact. In speaking, we have a horizon point, and that horizon point is always on the top of most people's heads, all the way back to the end of the room. If you're in a meeting space, you can use that horizon line. I try to tell people, find one person. Find one person in the room that you can make eye contact with, and then you can smile. And I promise if you do smile, that person will smile back. There you go, right? Yes, it's true, right? If you find that one person, and you smile at them, they will smile back. So find your one person. And sometimes you can do this if you need to. Have a plant. Plant somebody in the audience and say, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to smile and you better smile back. Thank you, right? So if you need to, use that. That's another hack for you. But on the generality, find one person to make eye contact with and smile at them. I promise, and a smile goes a long way, right? So give them that. It's a gift, right? All right. Okay. So when we talked about, we talked about pointing and gestures, palms up, palms down, where to put your feet. When you are sitting, when we give virtual presentations, it's really important to bring our hands up. Normally, when you're standing, you want your hands waist level. When you're doing a virtual presentation, you want to bring your hands up closer to your shoulders. Because when your hands stay hidden in a virtual presentation, it doesn't allow for trust. People want to see hands. Whether you're talking like this, whether you're moving them around, use your hands in a virtual presentation up towards your shoulders. When you are giving a virtual presentation and something that you're delivering is really important, sit at the closer end of your seat. Can you demonstrate this for us, friend? Yeah, turn your seat around so they can see in the back. There we go. There you go. And perch yourself closer to the top of the seat. There you go. When you're giving an important presentation virtually and you have something important that you want to deliver, perch yourself closer to the end of the chair. It gives you a different amount of energy that you're going to send out to the people receiving your message. I call it the chair perch. I coach on it every time, and I promise it delivers results. So perch yourself on a seat when you're delivering something virtually. Also, remember, bring your hands up, square your shoulders up on that virtual screen. Don't slouch back in your chair. Don't be totally up on the screen. Try to find that box in that screen and lean forward if you have to, but put your shoulders. Don't do military style where you're standing rigid, but be casual, but square up your shoulders to that screen. Okay, does that make sense what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, good. All right, awesome. Now, it's really, because we give a lot of virtual talks, right? How many of your meetings are virtual? 50, a lot, right? 50, 60, 70%. So use a lot of this. Bring your hands up when you talk. Listening in a meeting, this means that you are open to the information that's coming towards you, okay? Let's say then you lean forward, put your hand on your elbow, and put yourself in a thinker's pose. Yeah, thinker's pose. Yeah, put your chin on your hand. All right. What does this, I want to ask you, what does this pose mean to you guys? If you were in a meeting and you saw he's just volunteering, don't kill the messenger. All right, what does this pose mean to you? If you saw somebody, you're in a meeting and you saw somebody doing this, what does this mean to you? Well, how would you interpret this?
Bored.
Bored? Is that what you said?
Yeah, or not.
Not interested. Okay?
I would say the opposite.
Okay.
I'm interested or skeptic.
Okay. Skeptic is right. And cautious, right? If you use this pose and you are in a meeting and you are listening, this is signaling to the people that are talking that this person is not really out 100% believing what you're saying, or they're very much digesting it, right? So this pose signifies a lot if you were to either say it or use it, one or the other, right? Thank you so much, right? Again, don't kill the messenger. He's just being a very nice volunteer for me, right? I really want you to think about what I'm saying. I'm about to I want to share something with you that I want you to think about. And I hope when you do use this pose, this is a very good pose to use, but it's a very much of a pause. I want you to pause, and I want you to think about this. If you bring these templed hands forward, right, it's invitation. Come with me. I'm telling you something important. I'd like for you to listen. And I've done this. Is what I'm saying, is the message you're getting the one that you want to be getting? Or is there something else that you want to talk about? And I promise that audience will be so much more receptive to you if you actually listened to them. Right? Because obviously the words that you're saying, the message that you're sending out is not something that they want to hear. So what if you changed it? So we have, and I'm breaking into your lunchtime, and I apologize. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for letting me be a guide for you today. I hope that you have learned a lot. I hope that you have taken something from your story and that you will practice it, and you will practice it with each other and to all the ones that you go forward to. Thank you so much. And if you do want to get a hold of me, and the screen shows up, and I'm sorry about the screen, you could get a hold of me here. All right? Thank you so much. Have the best rest of the conference.